Today we are making the ultimate gluten-free brownies. They are fudgy, super chocolatey, and I promise you they're gonna become one of your favorite recipes. Hi, I'm Sam with Bites of Wellness. Come cook with me. So today we're gonna make the best chocolate brownies, and the reason that I love these so much is that they are super allergy friendly, and most of the people in my family can enjoy them. That means they have to be gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free, a lot of frees here, and an added bonus is that they're nut-free. So today we are making oat flour chocolate brownies. Cannot have brownies without chocolate, and this recipe really delivers. We are starting with 1 full cup of chocolate that we are going to just go ahead and melt down. For this, for ease, I like to use the microwave, but you could also do this over what's called a double boiler on the stove. Essentially, you would bring a pot of water to a simmer, put this glass bowl over the water, and you'd want to make sure that none of the water is escaping. So the bowl needs to be big enough to fit fully over your pot without any of the water touching the bottom of the bowl. And then as the water simmers, you're just going to stir until all of the chocolate is melting. But I'm going to use the convenience of the microwave for this. So 1 minute in the microwave for this entire bowl. You're going to notice that when the chocolate chips come out of the microwave, they don't really look like anything has happened. At this point, it's only been a minute. We want to stir them. You can see at the bottom, they're really melting down. You want to stir them. You don't want to scorch your chocolate or have it burn in any way. So it's better to take it a minute at a time and then in 30-second increments after that. So you can see this is still going to need another 30 seconds, but going at a full minute and a half, the bottom would have started burning. So we're going to throw this in for 30 more seconds. Chocolate should be done now. You can see it's really starting to melt down. The heat of the bowl will allow it to continue to keep melting. Just going to stir it around for a bit. And again, we're looking to melt the chocolate without burning the chocolate. Also important to note that if you haven't already, you should preheat your oven to 375 degrees so that your oven is ready when the rest of the ingredients are ready. So this is broken down enough. I actually forgot to take some of the chocolate chips out and save them for later. So this is okay with me to have a little bit of chunks left because I'm not going to add any chocolate chips at the end. So we are good there, just a few chocolate chips sitting, and to this we are going to add the almond butter. So almond butter is great for this because it adds a lot of healthy fats. It also helps make a really dense and moist brownie, which is what you're always looking for. I don't want a cakey brownie. I want something that is really dense and like luscious when you bite into it, and the almond butter is going to help with that. It adds a really healthy fat. So this is a dairy-free brownie, and we're not adding any butter. So this is kind of helping replace some of that fat that you would normally get from butter. Just gonna get that all incorporated, and then this is a really easy recipe. Everything else just goes in the bowl. So got some cacao powder. You could also use cocoa powder. I like cacao because it is not as bitter as cocoa powder, so it doesn't need to be kind of offset. If you only have cocoa powder, that's fine. You may just want to add another tablespoon of the coconut sugar to offset some of that bitterness, especially when paired with more chocolate. So got coconut sugar here. You could also use brown sugar or organic white sugar, whatever you have on hand. I like coconut sugar because it's got a little bit of a better glycemic index, maybe some vitamins and minerals. Let's be honest, it's still sugar, so use what you got. And to keep this gluten-free, I'm using oat flour, and then I've got baking powder in here as well. The baking powder helps them rise just slightly. The oat flour is just enough flour to bind your brownies without making them gooey or cakey or anything like that. You can make your own oat flour at home, but honestly, store-bought is pretty inexpensive, and it really gives you a consistent texture, so I recommend that. You could also use any gluten-free flour that you have on hand except coconut flour and almond flour. The coconut flour will absorb too much liquid, and the almond flour will give you kind of a grainy brownie. And although that's nice in some recipes, that's not what we're looking for here. So Just gonna add that in, stir it together, and then we're gonna add water. I know that sounds weird, but we just need to add some liquid here. You could probably do dairy-free milk as well, but you can see this is like chunky, so we wanna add water. And don't freak out when it doesn't look like it's gonna incorporate. Give it a minute. This is the same thing that happens when you are trying to make salad dressing and you're adding fat to vinegar, and it's kind of like the oil just doesn't want to go in. The chocolate's kind of the same way. It's a lot of fat, and then you've got that almond butter too, so the water just kind of doesn't want to seep in at first. Just keep stirring. I promise it'll go in. Add a pinch of salt to this as well. Salt helps to elevate the flavors, whether it's in a savory dish or a sweet dish. It can help make sweet dishes taste sweeter. In savory dishes, it helps all the flavors in that savory dish pop more. So try not to forget, just a small pinch of salt will go a long way. You could also just put flaky salt on top, but doing it in both spots is never a bad idea. All right. So as you can see, this batter is nice and thick and luscious now. It's ready to go in the oven. Because we use oat flour, the longer this sits, the thicker it'll get. At this point, you are welcome to add in more chocolate chips. You could also add in some chopped nuts, even some freeze-dried like strawberries, raspberries, bananas. Those little freeze-dried chips will just kind of blend in and give you that subtle hit of whatever the fruit is. Great ideas if you want to make this a really fun holiday. You could put some sprinkles in it. For Valentine's Day, you could put those like pink sprinkles in it, super fun. Or you could just save them for the top, whatever you want. But this is a really flexible kind of base for whatever else you love in your brownies. So don't feel like you can't play around a little bit. So now that this is done, we are going to add it to, I have a 10 by 7. This is just like my favorite shape because I can cut it down the middle, and the brownies are kind of a big chunk of brownies without having, I'm not a super center girl. I don't love the middle. I like the end, so this works well for me. But if you have people in your life that love that center bite, you could also just use an 8 by 8. Whatever you have on hand really will work. The bigger the container, the thinner they're gonna get. So 8 by 8 will work. This is a 10 by 7. It adds up to be just about the same. For your sanity, I'm going to recommend that you add some parchment paper to this. It just helps you be able to lift the brownies out, move them, and cut them along. If you're not gonna use parchment paper, really spray this down just to make sure it doesn't stick. I'm going to show you just a really easy, simple trick if you have trouble getting your parchment paper to stay, especially if you're doing like banana breads or anything like that. Press it down like it's going in, and then you can use these little clippies to just clip the parchment paper to the side. It'll help keep it in place. So that when you're pouring in, you don't have to worry about the filling going everywhere. I am going to give this just a little light spray for extra, just make sure it doesn't stick, mostly around just the edges. And then got to get it all. The fun thing about this is that it is completely egg-free. So if you want to save a little bit of brownie batter for yourself to snack on, you can just accidentally not scrape it all out. All right, that's good. So we're just going to flatten this down. So this really won't sink or rise too much. So you want it to be kind of pretty on top before you put it in the oven. Or if you leave like big scoops of brownie batter, it's gonna look that way when you take it out. So just be warned. All right. Looks pretty enough. take these off. They don't need to go in the oven. And this is going to go in the oven for 20 minutes. And then we are going to let it cool completely before we cut into it. Like I mentioned, this is an egg-free recipe. It has just the littlest bit of flour, so it is a very delicate brownie right out of the oven. But once it cools and sets up, it is the perfect consistency, but you really need to give it that time to rest. So a minimum of 30 minutes out of the oven, okay? Brownies are completely cooled. I'm going to just show you how easy, because we use parchment paper, it is to take them out of the container. And then you just want to flatten this out. As you can see, nothing sticks, which makes this super easy, and cleanup is a breeze. And then we're gonna cut these up into whatever size and shape that you love. I really like big chunkin' brownies, so I'm gonna cut them in half, and I'm gonna show you a tip. The brownie is really fudgy, so you see how it just kind of fell apart like that? Don't do what I just did. All right. So instead of going straight down and pulling up like I just did, you want to cut into the brownies like this. It'll help minimize how much of the brownie kind of falls apart. Again, these are pretty much flourless, but you're gonna get a little bit of falling apart. That's the part I like to eat right away. It's all good. I want to show you just how fudgy these brownies are. So again, they're not super cakey. They are very moist and dense and so freaking delicious. I'm gonna get chocolate in my teeth, so I'm just gonna tell you right now, have a great day. Enjoy these brownies. They're so rich. Yeah, happy brownies. If you love super simple gluten-free recipes, make sure to give us a follow and find us on your favorite social media platform. Dave said, "Do you need to prep for this?" I said, "No, it's brownies. I can talk about brownies." All right.